You just ate a handful of fries, and somewhere around something in your brain quietly went, yes, more of that. Not the potato, the salt. That faint, sharp, almost electric taste that makes food suddenly feel finished, satisfying, complete in a way it wasn't a second before. You don't think twice about it. Salt is in everything. It's on every table, in every kitchen, sold in bags for less than a bottle of water. You've probably poured some onto popcorn, into pasta water, over a fresh tomato, without ever once considering it a meaningful decision. It is, without question, the cheapest, most boring, most taken-for-granted substance in your entire diet. Which makes the real history genuinely hard to believe. For most of human existence, salt wasn't boring at all. It was one of the most valuable, most fought over, most obsessed over substances on the entire planet. So here's the real question. When did ancient humans start eating salt, and why does your brain still treat it like buried treasure? You probably assume salt is just a seasoning, something we sprinkle on for taste, purely optional, purely about flavor. That assumption misses almost the entire story. Salt isn't a luxury your body enjoys. It's a mineral your body cannot survive without. Sodium controls the fluid balance in every cell you have. It's essential for your nerves to fire and your muscles to contract, including the muscle currently keeping your heart beating. Without enough sodium, your body doesn't just feel a little off. Severe sodium deficiency can cause confusion, seizures, and in extreme cases, death, which is precisely why your body evolved to care about it this intensely in the first place. This isn't a system designed for a minor inconvenience. It's a system designed around a genuine survival threshold. Here's where the story gets interesting. Early humans eating a diet heavy in meat and blood were already getting a reasonable amount of sodium without trying, because meat naturally contains it. The real salt problem showed up later, as diets shifted toward more plants, grains, and farmed food, none of which contain much sodium at all. Suddenly, a mineral your body absolutely required became something you had to actively go find. And finding it wasn't easy. Unlike sugar, which at least grows on trees in the form of fruit, salt doesn't announce itself. It's not sweet, it's not colorful. In most inland environments, it's genuinely rare, hidden in specific mineral deposits, certain rock formations, or evaporated from seawater through a slow, labor-intensive process. So evolution did something clever. It gave your brain a dedicated, powerful craving system just for sodium, separate from your craving for sugar or fat. When your body's sodium levels run low, specific regions of your brain don't just suggest you eat something salty, they generate a genuine, targeted appetite for salt specifically, strong enough to drive real behavior. Animals across the planet display this same specific hunger. Deer and elephants will travel enormous distances, sometimes putting themselves at real risk from predators, just to reach a natural mineral deposit called a salt lick. Humans across the world display it too. Historical accounts describe entire communities detouring their travel routes specifically to pass near known salt deposits. And some indigenous groups developed detailed, memorized maps of mineral springs and salt outcrops passed down across generations, treated as essential survival knowledge on par with knowing where water could be found. Humans built entire civilizations around solving the same problem. The earliest, solid evidence of humans deliberately producing salt goes back roughly 8,000 years, at Neolithic sites in what is now China and southeastern Europe, where people boiled brine from natural springs in clay pots specifically to extract and concentrate the salt inside. This wasn't a casual side project. It required fuel, time, specialized pottery, and real technical knowledge, all dedicated to producing a mineral you couldn't grow, couldn't hunt, and couldn't simply gather off the ground in most places. One of the most striking examples sits in modern-day Bulgaria, at a site called Provadia Solnitsada, where archaeologists uncovered the remains of a walled settlement built specifically around a salt spring, complete with substantial stone fortifications, thousands of years before anything resembling a city existed anywhere nearby. People weren't just extracting salt there, they were defending it. Once humans figured out how to produce salt reliably, it rapidly became one of the most valuable substances in the ancient world, and for a reason that goes far beyond taste. Before refrigeration existed in any form, salt was one of the only reliable ways to preserve meat and fish for months at a time. Salt draws out moisture and creates an environment hostile to the bacteria that cause spoilage. A community with a stable salt supply could survive a brutal winter on preserved food. A community without one often couldn't. That single fact turned salt into something close to currency. Ancient trade routes formed specifically to move it, some crossing entire deserts. Camel caravans hauling massive slabs of rock salt traveled across the Sahara for weeks at a time, trading it in West African markets for gold, ounce for ounce being roughly accurate at certain points in history. Roman soldiers were sometimes paid an allowance specifically to buy salt, called a salarium, which is where the modern word salary actually comes from. You are, quite literally, still using a word that means salt money every time you talk about getting paid. Salt mattered so much that governments eventually built entire tax systems around controlling it. In pre-revolutionary France, a deeply unpopular salt tax called the gabelle forced ordinary people to buy a fixed minimum amount of government-controlled salt every year, whether they needed it or not. And resentment over that tax became one of the many pressures that helped fuel the French Revolution. A mineral you now buy for pocket change once helped topple a monarchy. Now compare all of that effort to your actual life. You don't dig for salt. You don't boil brine over a fire for hours. You don't trade anything across a desert to get it. It's sitting in a shaker on your table, refilled from a bag that cost less than your coffee this morning, and it's quietly added to nearly everything processed, packaged, or restaurant-made that you eat, often in far larger amounts than your body actually needs. The scarcity that shaped this entire craving system simply doesn't exist anymore, anywhere you're likely to be reading this. Here's the twist worth sitting with. The intense satisfaction you feel from something salty isn't a modern indulgence layered on top of a boring mineral. It's the exact same ancient reward circuitry that once meant the difference between finding a life-sustaining resource and slowly, quietly failing without one. Your brain didn't evolve to enjoy salt the way it enjoys, say, a pleasant color. It evolved to treat salt roughly the way it treats water when you're dehydrated. Not a preference, a need being met. And that system has no idea the world changed. It has no way of knowing that salt is no longer rare, no longer something you have to boil out of a spring or trade across a desert for. As far as your ancient sodium-seeking circuitry is concerned, that craving hitting the exact moment salt touches your tongue is still doing its job perfectly, still rewarding you for solving a problem that, for most of human history, could genuinely kill you if left unsolved. Modern life just removed the part where you had to work for it. So when did ancient humans start eating salt? The honest answer is probably far earlier than we have direct evidence for, since the biological need is ancient and universal. But the moment we can actually prove, roughly 8,000 years ago, is the moment humans stopped simply hoping to stumble across salt and started deliberately manufacturing it, boiling it out of the earth itself because their bodies demanded a mineral their new farming lifestyle no longer reliably provided. That demand never went away. It's still sitting in your brain right now, fully installed, fully active, quietly convinced that the fries in front of you are treasure. You're not weak for loving salt. You're running an ancient survival system that once turned a handful of dissolved rock into something worth building trade routes, inventing new words, and crossing deserts for.